Hello Multi-Malt Mysteries, and thank you to Peter Ledchowski, it's Ledchowski, that's what it is, for malt mention. 927 extras here in the Bothy in the middle of the Irish Sea, because the Bothy is where the malt moments happen, you know, it's the way it happens. And I've just reviewed this independent bottling of Mortlach. Cask strength, natural colour, unchill filtered, integrity malt, first pour from a sealed bottle. So I've been mixing up a little bit, doing it at a slightly different angle here, and giving first impressions, which result in 87 out of 100 as a malt mark, which is particularly good. I love these eccentric bottles from smaller labels belonging to bigger independent bottlers, because they're a bit off the radar. People are not aware of them. And I know that after our Alfie review, you will be more aware of them now, but why not? Because if you are, then more of them will be bottled, because there's more sales happening. So it creates a virtuous circle. In the meantime, that 87 out of 100 was a first impression mark. I can assure you that with experience with independent bottlers, particularly integrity at cask strength, they improve once the bottle's been opened and it's lying around, oxygenating a little bit, and you might move it now and again. Take the cork off, have a sniff, put the cork on, pour a wee glass, create a bit more of an air gap in the bottle, and gradually you positively oxidise the whisky to make it loosen up a little bit from its hibernation in the bottle. And when it does, it delivers more, because it's in a position to deliver more, because it's more naturally presented, virtually straight from the cask with a bit of barrier filtering. And that's it. That's the way whisky should be, as natural as possible. When you are getting cosmeticized whisky which is heavily chill filtered, and I mean, chill filtering isn't a delicate process, malt mates. Don't go thinking that. Flavour is stripped out of whisky during chill filtration. That is a fact. You ask anybody who works in a bottling plant, when they open up the concertina to remove the cardboard filters, the place smells lovely. It smells beautiful with all these essential barley oils and long chain proteins which have been removed, literally forced out of the whisky. Now that's fine when it's a blend, and it's fine when it's, you know, a non-age statement, bargain basement, supermarket shelf, single malt, something masquerading as something of quality that used to be a quality but now selling on the name. Hey, I'm just giving an opinion. I'm giving an opinion. It doesn't matter the price. I still wouldn't buy it, because even a bargain can be a complete waste of your money. And if you're just starting out in whisky, the problem for the industry is someone's going to taste this bargain, non-age statement, heavily processed, sanitised. Yeah, I like using that word, but other folk like me using it too. Sanitised single malt, which looks just like a blend and is behaving just like a blend, to be honest, these days. And it's got burnt sugar in it. But you're not allowed to call it burnt sugar. You call it E150 natural colourant. Natural my arse. I think what bugs me is there's a tension going on here. It's like an elastic band getting stretched, where big producers, they only want the one customer, and they want to call them a consumer. And they want your custom and my custom, but they don't want to recognise the quality that we are looking for. And see when we start to walk away from their brand's in big trouble. In big trouble. And they don't realise this. They think that the passive consumer, if they discount it a bit and advertise a bit, will bail them out. But when they actually look over these horrendous contracts that they are making, these quote unquote, some would describe it as pacts with the devil, with Amazon and the supermarkets and travel retail, they're starting to lose control of the product because they are trying to, they're putting the bling on and they're waiting for who's going to deep discount the most to get the attention, the flash and dash of some transient consumer who is heavily in debt, is pulling in their purse strings and can no longer afford luxuries, and therefore just puts them right off the Christmas list, the New Year's list. They say, I tell you what, see my sober October. I'm going to remain sober in November, December, January, February, March. Who's left drinking the whiskey then? Who's left buying the whiskey, malt mates? We are. The true enthusiasts, the faithful. But unfortunately, the way I see it, there are distilleries out there who do not keep faith with the faithful. And it's time to really stop buying from them. I have a friend who's actually, she's in the wine business. And she's very good at her job. She organises events and symposiums and stuff for big business down in London. And she commented to me recently, I know she was fishing for an opinion. And I gave a fairly modest opinion. Perspective, I'd call it a perspective. And she was asking me, see with single malts, because she's chatting to the bar professionals in 5-star hotels who have customers saying, oh, this isn't what it used to be. And it's not just whiskey, it's about other alcoholic beverages as well. Pimm's, great example. Great example. Campari, another example. They're saying, oh, it's not what it used to be. Are they offloading all the junk on us at the moment because times are good? This is what she was asked. Now she's asking me, hey Ralphie, do you think distilleries are trying to empty out the inferior contents of their warehouse while the energy of sales is still there before the recession arrives? And I said, well, it is an option. Put it that way, it is an option, but I wouldn't care to comment because I think it varies considerably between companies. And this is why I tend to spend more and more time looking at smaller distilleries. Although even with small distilleries you can have issues. And I'm talking official bottlings. This non-age statements, it's no use to me. This is why I take advantage of the fact of where I am and the access that I have to the range of independent bottlers that are out there that are now showing more and more proper value for money in relation to the quality of the whiskey and other spirits that they're now bottling. There's a lot of little independent bottlers. Sometimes they're getting it wrong. I bought a bottle of Isle of Arran recently. It was bottled at 8 years old. It shouldn't have been bottled till it was at least 10 years old. It was too young. But I let it be. It's a small company, still finding their feet. I'll just put it on the shelf for another day. It becomes part of the Undertaker's Stash archive. But with independent bottlings, you've got to do your homework. There are some duffers out there, but particularly for the more experienced whiskey drinker, who probably has made contacts online, who probably is in an informed group, a whiskey club perhaps, an online whiskey forum, following various channels, looking at various reviews and jumping in quick to buy bottles that are recommended before they disappear or the price jumps up too dramatically. These things happen. It's all about getting in quick. Much more than it used to be. Not that long ago you could see Springbank gathering dust in the shelves of smaller shops around the UK. Not now. No, far from it. And there'll be another distillery next. Which one? Who knows? For the experienced, that's coming along really well, by the way. Nice and zesty. Lemon zest, a bit of sour and bitter grapefruit about it. It's a lovely single malt. I'm thoroughly going to enjoy it. But it's not conventional. It's for the experienced. I've been at this over 30 years, seriously. So I can find my way, I can navigate this sort of whiskey. And at this point, you want to be considering navigating your purchase options a little bit wider, spreading your net a little bit wider, and looking at what's in the auction houses. Why should you look at auction sites who are selling whiskey and other quality spirits for independent bottlings? One, independent bottlings are less collectible, therefore there will not be such fierce bids on them unless it's Bowmore and Ardbeg or Macallan, as you can imagine, the usual, you know the script. And also they're less likely to be faked. There'll be less interest in them. If they're not going to make a huge amount of money, there's no point in faking them. Therefore the chances with independent bottlings that are not investable are quite simply you're more likely to get an honest bottle of the genuine content. I bought a 17-year-old Mortlach recently, 46%. Bought it for £50. If that was an official bottling, it would probably be £135 to £140. Seriously. I've had a taste. It's fascinating. It's been one refill ex-bourbon cask his whole life. I can just tell, and it's got that old-fashioned softness to it. A real soft version of quite a heavily flavoured single malt that is Mortlach. And when you're looking at the auction, leave it to the last hour and then go down to the bargain basement. You'll see a whole load of tatty old blends. Some of them, they're just not worth it. No matter how tatty they look, how authentic they are, they may well not be very nice at all. If you're buying it, leave it sealed and just leave it on your shelf as a little bit of a historical archive part of your whiskey stash. But there's other more recent bottlings. People have bought them and said, I bought two, I enjoyed one, I'll get rid of the other and I can buy another whiskey. And this is where we get advantage from this, because the person selling it isn't looking to get massive big returns. They're just a small scale old fashioned flipper that bought 2 bottles or maybe 3 bottles and say, right, I'll enjoy one, enjoyed it, maybe keep one, but I'll sell one and do the other, have a swap with one in my whiskey club. And that's the way it works. And during this time you get the information, you get to know which independent bottlers have had a good run at which point in their history with certain single malt profiles. And you look at Whiskey Base and you look at Whiskey Fun. And Whiskey Fun, I'd just like to briefly say that Whiskey Fun has always been somewhere that I've occasionally gone to reference and double check my own tasting notes. And honestly, I don't always agree with Serge, but he gets samples given to him a lot of the time because he's very well connected, whereas I'm buying stuff off the shelf of shops. So it can account for a certain difference. But the quality of the archive that he's placed free of charge on the internet of this cornucopia of historical high quality spirits is frankly second to none. And I think it's a real shame that the Malt Maniacs website just did not develop further, because there was huge potential there. But fortunately Whiskey Fun has kept on going, hasn't changed the formula, gets whole loads of stick for not giving glowing review. I mean, he gives worse marks than I do, Malt Mates. He does. He gives much more critical marks. I cut a little bit of slack, you see, because I'm too generous, I'm too kind-hearted to him, the bothy. It's one of my problems. But I tell you what, there's times I've been tasting some whiskies recently and I can tell you right now, why the hell did they bottle them? What are they playing at? It's no use. I'll be reviewing one shortly and the mark will be below 80. Because I cannot find it in myself to buy a shit whiskey which should be good and can be good, and we know it can, and open the bottle and I pour a glass in. What's there? What should be there just isn't there. It just isn't there. And that's fundamentally wrong. That is not good. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've meandered a little bit, by the way. I was intending to, I will conclude now, which is the best independent bottling for you to start with. Right. Here it is. Your infinity bottle. It's your project. It's your budget. You control it. It's the one independent bottling you own. You're responsible for it. Nobody else has it. No one in the world. No shop out there can push the price up. No flipper can flip it. No speculator can sweep in and buy it and then sell it on to whoever's daft enough to buy it. An infinity bottle just isn't like that. And you will be amazed, and I know many of you comment in my comment section of my videos, of you've started either a small cask and you're learning quickly how dramatic the influence of the small cask wood can be, how quickly it works, too quickly at times, and how you've got to be so careful preparing that cask. But also with your infinity bottling, you can literally take two single malts together, put them in an empty bottle, leave them a week, come back to them because they've married together, pour that dram, and it's stunning because you see your direct learning experience as a blender. And when you understand blending, you understand whiskey. Simple as that. Whether it be single malts, because single malts are blends as well most of the time, but blends of one single malt into a batch. I'm Ralphie from the Bothy, telling you as it is, saying what needs to be said. And if you've enjoyed this, click like, subscribe, leave a comment. I've been struggling to keep up with the comments recently because a lot have been getting left, but bear with me. I try and leave a wee smiley heart thing. That's what I do most of the time, just to let you know I've noticed your comment. And thanks to all my Patreon subscribers who I respond to most of the comments there, because it's a great little group and I'm really enjoying the conversation that's going on within the comments. So if you'd like to join my Patreon channel, patreon.com, it's Ralphie. Yeah. Providing additional content and live streams to Patreon subscribers and other exciting stuff. Hey, I'm Ralphie from the Bothy. Hope you've enjoyed this and we'll see you soon, you lucky maltsters. Keep your luck lucky. Buy wisely.